The topic of this project is Alzheimer's disease, and it is created by Grayson Woodring, Carson Story, James Joel, and Juliet Guthrie. Alzheimer's disease is a neurodegenerative disease that has no cure and affects the neurons in the human brain. The risk of development increases with age, and symptoms include memory loss and aggression. Research shows that early onset Alzheimer's appears to be caused by inherited genetic mutations and is autosomal dominant. While the cause of late onset Alzheimer's, genetic or environmental, remains unclear. When evaluating the 23andMe test, we see that the E4 variant of the PLD3 gene is not tested. The PLD3 helps facilitate the production of the amyloid beta protein in brain cells. Amyloid beta is a protein that functions to regulate synapse formation. An overexpression leads to a decrease in amyloid. Consequently, having this variation increases your risk of Alzheimer's by 2 times. Common contributors are APP, APOE, PLD3, TREM2, and TM2D3. 23andMe only tests for the APOE gene. However, the PLD3 gene is expressed in the brain cells and aids in the production of the amyloid beta protein. Mutations in these genes lead to a buildup of amyloid beta peptides, which are partial protein fragments that cause degradation in nerve cells. This causes a decrease in patients' capacity for memory, judgment, and function. Altered PLD3 genes result in roughly 20% increase in methylation, meaning a roughly 20% greater chance of developing AD. This, combined with other SNPs, would paint a pretty clear picture of a diagnosis for patients testing for their probability of contracting Alzheimer's disease.
Next, we'll talk about the benefits of our test versus that of the test put on by 23andMe. The benefits of our testing when compared to that of 23andMe are clear. We provide a wider range of testing over SNPs than that of the 23andMe test. This leads to a more holistic approach. Therefore, the test is more appealing and is more capable of easing patients' minds with an increased proof and accuracy behind the results, so that there isn't much uncertainty on the test's accuracy. Another benefit of our test is that since our test inspects an increased number of variations, there's a smaller likelihood of a false positive. The limitations of our test include SNP chip limitations. Because the test is an SNP chip test, we will only be testing the known SNPs. Many SNPs can be contributed to Alzheimer's, which means that testing a single polymorphism cannot give a holistic perspective. Ultimately, though, this means that we can't be 100% sure that our results will be accurate as to if Alzheimer's will develop or not. The social limitations include the common confusion about what X% more likely to contract a disease actually means. So we'll clearly explain the meaning of our diagnosis and our results to those patients to avoid any possible confusion that could arise. When deciding on whether or not to test for a disease, it is extremely important to take ethical considerations into account. Specifically, the ethical considerations of the mental and financial aspects of testing should be considered for this test. If one is deemed at risk for disease based on the test results that a patient receives, it could bring on a constant fear, a great deal of stress, anxiety, or depression. Living with worry that one will one day develop a disease needs to be taken into consideration when deciding whether or not to test and receive the results of the test. With emotional consideration, there must also be a financial consideration. Determining if this test is worth the financial cost must be considered before making the decision to test. Lastly, here are our references.